The wish list for Saturday afternoon was 3 points and maybe a goal from a corner. Well, we got 3 points and 2 goals from a corner. What better Nottinghamshire derbies can you hope for and wish for? When Notts County took the lead just 3 minutes into the Nottinghamshire Derby at the weekend, some of us were thinking, oh God, it's going to be today. Today is going to be the day where our unbeaten record comes crashing to a halt. But step forward, Lewis Reed, Bailey Cargill, Aidan Flint and Lucas Akins to give us a Derby day to remember. I, for one, am delighted that I was there. Come and share your thoughts, your memories, your comments, your questions, your opinions as the Stags continue to remain unbeaten in this phenomenal start to the campaign as they get one over the league leaders and their Nottinghamshire neighbours. All for one for all, 3 points for the Stags and a broken wheelbarrow. I don't know, I'm still excited about Saturday. Hello one and all and welcome to the Mansfield Matters Podcast. It's your show for the fans, by the fans, where Derby Day delight is still very much on our minds. FOURmidable, maybe? What about never forget? I don't know, there's so many different spins we can put on the number 4, but I think all 4-1 probably suits. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Mansfield Matters Podcast. Hope that you're all doing well and are still enjoying Saturday lunchtime's result at Notts County at Meadow Lane, or Memorable Lane, as we shall dub it for Aidan Flint as he gets his first Stags goal, takes man of the match, and delivers a Derby Day captain's performance to remember. Joining me to recap that Nottinghamshire Derby Day delight, let's say hello, good evening to Clive from Edwinstowe. I can't remember what he's put his name as, but there you go. Hello, Clive from the Edwinstowe outpost.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody.
Let's say hello and good evening to Nick of Mansfield Town Shirts fame in his freshly painted garage.
It is freshly painted. Yeah, how are we doing, everyone?
And shock horror, we win on Derby Day, so he turns up for the podcast. Hi, Cam.
Oh, that's just rude. That's just very rude.
But it's also... no Alan Wilson this evening. He is unfortunately in the injury room, resting up his voice. Personally, I think he's starting to do one too many appearances on BBC Radio Nottingham now, and therefore isn't fit for the podcast. So maybe we'll have a little word, but we wish him all the very best, and we of course want his voice back in fine fettle for Saturday afternoon as he calls out all of those goals that are going to fly in against Forest Green. And Nathan said he's not going to turn up until we lose, so we will see him next week when we lose to Harrogate. How are we all? Are we all over Derby Day? Yeah, it was a Derby Day to remember, wasn't it, Cam?
It was. I'm 100% not over it yet. My voice is still a bit selective of when it wants to fully work. I had moments today going around IKEA with the partner and the little one where my voice just broke a few times and I'm just recovering. I had a stonking headache when I got back from Meadow Lane on Saturday. They didn't give us time to recover. You're supposed to spread the goals out, not score 3 in 10 minutes. Jeez.
Well, I don't think, Nick, that anyone else had an issue with that, because to be honest, like 3 in 3 minutes would have been even better, wasn't it? I don't think you could have written a better script than that one on Saturday, could you?
No, I was giddy. I don't know the word is I was just giddy leaving the ground. I just couldn't stop smiling. And I don't think that's really stopped. I must have watched the goals back. I don't know how many times I've watched the clips. It helps that it was on Sky as well, because the highlights are a million times more accessible. And it's like it's on my TV, it's on my phone, it's on Twitter, it's wherever you go, there's just there. But yeah, that was ridiculous. That was probably the best 12 minutes of football I've seen, potentially ever. It was unbelievable. It was an onslaught.
I will never forget the words of Clive Parkin when we won the first corner, when Bailey Cargill scored to put us in front, which was something along the lines of, we never score from corners. And then up pops Bailey Cargill to break it up. And then lo and behold, when we got the second corner, Clive said to me again, we can't score 2 from 2. We've done all our scoring from corners this season. Then up pops Aidan Flint to literally silence the county fans and spread delight in the away end.
It just goes to show, Craig, that I know it's very rare, almost unheard of, but on this occasion, I was wrong twice.
Anything to be wrong about, that is probably it, isn't it? As always, we invite you to come.
Can I just remind you, my forecast for the score was 0-0. I think I underplayed it slightly.
Yes, it was. Absolutely. Keep your comments coming in. I imagine there'll be a fair few of them this evening after such a decent result on Saturday lunchtime. Please do continue to send in your 4-1 or 4 related puns. I was trying to think of a few of them. In the end, I opted for all 4-1 because, we've got to get the score in there as well. Simon says, looking forward to this one. Chris says, I was buzzing before Saturday, I still am. And also says, for King Hell. Keep your comments coming in. Absolutely. I want more of those puns, please. More comments. Mitchell says, come on, you stags. Simon says, wow, Saturday was not only our best performance of the season, but it was the most satisfying. But it's now chip paper. Forest Green will be a tough test. Another team that will come and park the bus and try and frustrate us. P.S. I can't stop watching the goals from Saturday yet. What about that comment there, Nick? The first part of that comment. Not our best performance of the season, but it was the most satisfying. Would you agree with that? Certainly the way in which the second half unfolded.
Yeah, certainly. I don't think it was the best. I mean, I think we played better at Accrington. We played better at home. I thought against teams like Wrexham we played better football. I just think it was the perfect storm in terms of they were completely set up to not be able to beat Mansfield. They could not have set up any worse against Mansfield because they decided that they wanted to go long ball and play a high line. And we like to play defenders who are 6'6" and above, and we like to run in behind. I don't quite understand what I did say to a county fan outside. I said it's like you'd never watched Mansfield before. We don't like pace, and we don't like pace out wide. They hoofed it down the middle. They literally were the antithesis of what could possibly, they could have gone. It was bizarre, and I think the most bizarre thing was that they didn't change their tactics, and we stuck to our guns and we chased everything down. And Akins and Keeler Dunn and Maris, who were chasing the ball up front. I just thought it just completely worked and it suited us. The way they played suited us. I don't think it was our best game. I don't think we were at our most fluent going forward, but everything suited us. It just all came sort of to fruition for us because of the way they played, I thought.
Yeah, I wouldn't have liked to have been in Luke Williams' shoes on Saturday as it all sort of came crumbling down, because they did not only just change, not adapt their tactics or whatever to counteract Mansfield, like Nick has just eloquently put, Cam, but also they decided to not go for the former Mansfield goalkeeper Aidan Stone in goal, who was dropped out of nowhere, dropped almost like a stone, and not one Notts County fan could fathom it. And judging by the performance of Sam Slocum, if I was a county fan, not only would I be in my mid-90s, but also I would also be sitting there questioning what on earth was going on, because he had an absolute shocker.
He did. And like Nick just said, it's almost as if they've not watched us all season, and they were so adamant about playing out from the back. And if I was a Notts County fan, I'd have been needing CPR or a defib or something every time that ball went back to Slocum. He nearly lost it several times, and it's bonkers. And I can't remember. I think it was my dad or somebody who found the stat, but I think it's just like Slocum had 3 or 4 times the amount of touches that Macaulay Langstaff did, which is bonkers. It's absolutely insane, and I can't. And Simon saying in the comments about not being able to stop watching the highlights. I keep getting grief from Ellie for watching the highlights every moment. You just stick them on, because it's very rare that we get days like this as a Mansfield Town fan. And if there was ever a day for our unbeaten run and our fantastic defensive record to come unravelling would be against them, and it would be on Sky. But my geez, Mansfield Town, you are going to give us all a heart attack one day.
It is. As your dad in the comments says, Cam, 115 touches for Slocum, 21 for Langstaff. You're welcome. He also says that he said to you before the game that it's about time we battered someone. I really hope it's these. Couldn't believe how bad they were. And to be fair to him, Clive, he was absolutely spot on. I think a few people have been saying for weeks, judging by performances, someone is going to get a battering. But I don't think anybody, including Mystic Meg, could have foretold it to be the league leaders, Notts County, who had won at that point 5 out of their 5 home league games.
Yeah, I mean, we have to say this. We were FOURmidable, and at the end of the game, they were forlorn.
Wee.
And I think their manager exposed his lack of experience a little bit, because he didn't adapt in the way that we see Mr. Clough change things when he has to. And they played to our strengths. They ignore the fact that we have obvious weaknesses. It seems amateurish by comparison. And what surprises me is that they were the league leaders, and that didn't happen as a result of one game. They put a run together, so that gives me an awful lot of encouragement, really, that going forward, if we play like we know we can, we shouldn't fear anybody in this league. There's going to be somebody who'll knock us over. It's more than likely going to be next Tuesday. We know that. But I thought on the day, everything that could go right went right, and every player on our squad performed well. You can't normally say that, because even when we play well, there's usually somebody who has a bit of an off game. It was interesting that Martin on iFollow gave everybody 9 for that game.
Yeah,
every Stags player 9.
Yeah,
I think that's just lazy, but there you go.
Most probably. I think you say there, Clive, that everything went right that could go right. Almost everything went right that could go right, Nick, because, realistically, everyone's watching the game from the 4th minute mark onwards, aren't they? Because in those first 4 minutes, the first attack, really, when Notts County went and scored and we didn't really follow up that loose ball, a bit of defensive error, there were a few murmurs of thinking, here we go, this is going to be it, isn't it? And we did say last week, I was fortunately, Nick, made to eat my words, saying that the first goal would be the team that ended up winning the game. In the end, it was the team that ended up losing the game, but they came out of the traps flying and did have us on the ropes for a good, 5-6 minutes or so early doors.
Yeah, they did. The only thing I would say about that, the only thing I said to my dad at the time, I said, I don't know if this goal is going to be a good thing for us, because I think at that point they thought, we've scored, we don't really need to go mental here. We can just sit back and pass it around a little bit. And then all of a sudden they dropped into that mindset that we're top of the league, little old Mansfield, we're at home, we're winning the 16,000 of a 0 or whatever, and we'll just pass it around the back a bit. And they went for it until they scored. And from that minute on that they scored, they sort of just passed it around the back. I mean, we saw the stat early with Slocum. I just looked. Pym touched it 17 times all game, and their goalkeeper touched it 117 times. So I don't know. I think that early goal weirdly helped us, but for the first time in sort of 25 years, 26 years of going, I didn't fear that we'd gone behind. I just thought, well, we'll definitely score. I always felt we would score, and I never felt that sort of, I call it MK Donsism, that when we went 1-0 down to MK Dons away from home, you literally could have got out your seat if it wasn't so comfy and gone home, because you just knew we weren't going to score. Whereas I never felt that on Saturday. I always felt we would at least score once. Now they might have gone on and got a few, but
Nick, there's another stat, isn't there? The one that's I think Mansfield and Crewe are
yes,
the teams that have come from behind most efficiently this season.
Yeah, and I think
one of Crewe's was down to us, of course, but.
Yeah, I think 10 points we'd rescued from winning positions, which was the same as Crewe's. But I never felt like we were going to lose from that point, because we just go at it, don't we? We never stop, whether it's the last minute or 2 minutes straight after they scored. We were always at it, and I think that early goal did for them. They sort of slowed down for whatever reason.
Yeah, 1-2 drawn 4 from conceit from being behind. 10 points, as you say, joint highest in the division with Crewe. But I think that's one thing for me, Cam, this season, which, Nick said there, when you go behind, it is almost like the catalyst. It's almost like we need to go behind in some respects to kickstart us into life. God help us if we're ever in the 70th minute and it's 0-0.
Yeah. Well, I suppose this shows why why we're on such a good run. It's that fight and that desire that the players are showing. We've been too guilty in the past of having players that would have just rolled over. You look back at the last time we played Notts County, we went 1-0 down in the second half, and even before going 1-0 down, they didn't look interested. And we were saying at the time that was probably one of the best Mansfield sides that we've had in X amount of years under Flitcroft, the style of football we were playing. If we hypothetically could play this side against that side, this side had walked them off the park. Miles better. And the resilience that they've shown this season is superb, because we've not given up, we've not given in. And one game in particular in Colchester where you think, right, first defeat's on the cards here, and they just pull something extra out, and it's great to see. And it's not a Mansfield team that are just going to roll over at nothing, and absolutely love it.
I think has hit the nail on the head in the comments, Clive, really, by saying this team seem to know, never seem to know when they're beat, and that's a good thing. But I don't necessarily think that's been grown out of the squad this season. I think that's been grown from the past. Well, ever since we lost at Wembley, we've built this dressing room and kept a large majority of the players and slowly built the foundations to something good. And this year, having seen how close we've come, those who've been there, the longest time, I know we've got a completely different defence now and added some extra quality. But I think those players who've come in have really brought into this thing of, we don't want to be so near yet so far anymore. We don't want to give it up. And never knowing when you beat is a great thing to have within your dressing room. I think it's almost better than having a 15-goal season striker for me, because that desire is what's going to win you games, as it has done on numerous occasions this season. Hence the stat of 10 points from losing positions.
I think what we're good at this year is turning adversity to our advantage. I mean, we've come into this season having had 5 very key players taken away from us through injury, and I think the players have stood up and said, "Look, we'll compensate for that." And Barry's a living example of that. I think we've now got a back line which is as good as any I've seen at FOURmidable, and that's a starting point of success. The fact that we're conceding fewer goals than anybody else is testament to that. And I think the players in the midfield now are starting to understand each other in a way that takes time to build. And I think the fact that we go behind in games, that isn't a detriment anymore, because they have that belief arising from this, we can deal with adversity. So it sounds a little bit pompous, but that's the way I see it now. I wish we didn't start games asleep, and it's not the first or even the second or even the third time that's happened in recent games. I think if we could deal with that, that's a good thing. Having said that, would we have gone on to win 4-1 if we hadn't conceded the early goal? Who knows?
Well, no, we'd have gone on to win 4-0.
Well, you don't know that.
Simple maths. As Mitchell in the comments says Nick, I found it strange this might have been our first game all season. We didn't dominate possession, actually got destroyed in that stat, yet we scored 4. Would you say we played more direct in this game? Let's deal with the first part of that and the word stat. Stats mean bugger all. The only thing that matters is how many times you stick the ball in the back of the net. You can have all the possession in the world, but if we rob it off you 4 times and go and score 4 times on the counter, we win the game comfortably. Possession, I could not care a jot about.
I do agree with that. I think the games where we've had a lot of possession and teams have sat back, we found it very difficult to unlock them. You look at Wrexham, Wimbledon, a few others at home, Bradford, teams who came for the point, sat back and gave us all the ball in the world. We struggled because things get tight and we struggle in and around the box. But like I said earlier, I don't repeat the point, but we went long because that's the game we were faced with, and the Stags players just adapted to it and went, right, okay, well, if they're going to play long balls, Flint's going to win it. So therefore, the couple of midfielders can play a bit further up. The guys need to be looking at running in behind, and we sort of just went with how the game went, and that's just all about reacting to your surroundings, isn't it, and how the game pans out. But I don't think we need the ball. I think we're better without the ball sometimes. It's I think we look better without the ball, and County just made a mess of it to put it politely. They just passed it around. They weren't even playing straight 5-yard passes. We didn't need the ball. We just kept putting it in the net.
That's all we need to do. Quick question for Cam from Chris. Cam, who was this other ginger man you mentioned on Saturday? I'm interested.
We were talking before the game, and somebody mistook me for being a raging pessimist.
Did somebody take you for being me?
Yes.
I am fucking furious with whoever that is because I do not look like that.
But yes, Chris, this is the other ginger one I was talking about. Yeah, Craig's the pessimist, but I think even the most pessimistic Craig can't be pessimistic about any of this.
No, I can't. I don't know whether that's like. I don't know whether I should take that as a raging negative on me with people thinking that I look like you, or whether you should take it as a massive compliment that people think you look like me. I don't know. Let's move on. Result. I didn't see that coming, and great to see 4 different scorers. Richard says the reason Notts had all the possession was because they kept passing it across the back 4, going nowhere. That's a very valid point as well when people talk about possession stats. Your possession stats build up if you just knock it between the two of you or across the back 4. It doesn't actually give an accurate reflection of how the game's panning out, in my opinion. And Mitchell says, I don't get the luxury of watching every game with it being American problems. Absolutely. Nick has said, other than Langstaff, who I think would score 30 goals a season with the chances we create, I wouldn't pick a single one of their players to put in our team. And Simon says, for me, the turning point was away at Wednesday, injury-ridden, playing a championship team, winning equals confidence and winning mentality. Can't disagree with a single letter of that, Clive.
Oh, absolutely right. Success breeds success. And sometimes it's the game that you've won ugly that gets things triggered as well. I think about one of the few home successes this season was against Barrow. It was a god-awful game, but we managed to claw a 3-pointer out of it. And I think we need some of those. It's all right being beautiful footballers and playing, billiard table football like we have been doing, but sometimes you've just got to lump people up in the air. And I think sometimes when teams are coming to build 2 strong walls to stop us moving through them, you've got to knock them aside. And I think we've got the strength to do that now.
Certainly have. The comment says, do you think they should have had a player sent off for an elbow, Nick?
No, I didn't think so, to be fair. And I know a few people said they thought the foul for the first goal, but the player just falls over, doesn't he? I think even the people on Sky said that wasn't a foul. But no, to be fair, I thought the referee was quite good for once. I didn't notice him, but I think some of the really silly times they went down, he didn't give it. And I thought it was quite. They went down in the box a few times, just no force, waved his arm away, moved on. For both sides. And to be honest, I didn't have a bad word to say. He was probably one of the best referees we've had this season.
I agree.
Yeah, and I thought there was an instant where one of our players went down as well, but we had an opportunity to counter-attack and nearly scored from it. In fact, I think we ended up winning a corner from it, and he played on.
Yeah,
which was
excellent.
Yeah, I completely agree. Chris says they had nowhere to go when they did get the ball. Our pressing play was awesome. Let's talk corners, Cam, because like we were saying before, Clive said to me on Saturday, as I've been saying as well all season, every time we get a corner, we're not going to score. Let's not get excited. But finally, we managed to break our duck, and it's all about 2 things: the delivery and the decoy, or in terminology you'll understand, double D.
Is that Donald Duck?
Yeah. Well, we're all quackers for following Mansfield. Anyway,
I'll send you the bill.
I think it's an interesting one because obviously the frustration is there. Not frustration, but there is a little bit of something in the background where obviously the players and the staff are getting frustrated because obviously Flinty said after the game that the lads were grilling him for not scoring yet. And that's one of the areas that obviously is most dangerous. And then, yeah, like you said, the delivery and the decoy for Bailey Cargill's goal, they're lumping every single man on Aidan Flint, probably rightly so, but they've just not thought about anybody else. And I'm not going to complain we scored, but Notts County must be absolutely fuming with the way they conceded that goal, and even worse with the third goal, because that is criminal defending.
They played statues, didn't they?
Yeah, they play statues, and all right, fair enough. They dealt with sort of like it was a good save from Slocum to tip it onto the post, first and foremost. But that second ball wasn't dealt with. And thirdly, they've just let Aidan Flint go completely free. There was two players manhandling him, and they've both just let him go, and he's had 4 or 5 yards all around him just to smash it into the back of the net. It's absolutely criminal defending, and we're not going to complain, but if you're a Notts County fan, you've got to be thinking, what on earth has just happened?
The delivery side of it, that's the component for me, trying to get that right, because some of our set pieces have been absolutely shocking, and that's down to the delivery. But he literally could not have pinpointed him, any better. I remember listening to a podcast years ago about Paul Scholes in training for Manchester United, and he could basically say, right, go and hit that tree from 40 yards, and he'd do it without even like the first time, because pinpoint accuracy, that's how you train, and that's how you get better. And the delivery for Bailey Cargill's goal, lovely out-swinging ball, just not too much pace in it, just hung up well in the air. The run was well timed. Everything that could have gone right about that set piece went right.
Yeah, I think the delivery's been getting better as we go. We had a habit of hitting them as hard as we can, trying to take the player's face off. Whereas now we've started to hang the ball in the air a little bit, and that plays to your strength because it gives you tall players time to sort of get into position. And I do think the delivery's been getting better. We still do occasionally hit the first man quite a bit, but I think it depends who takes it. I think Keeler Dunn's a good penalty take, a good corner taker, and then I think McDonald took some near the end, and he took some really good ones as well. But it's a welcome addition, isn't it, to the sort of armoury we've got and ways you can score, because we've been trying to force things out of open play, getting corners and free kicks and wasting them. Whereas now, if we can add that sort of, you think when we got promoted, how many goals Reece Day scored from corners?
Oh, yeah.
We must have won more than 10 points with late goals from corners that Adam Murray took or Liam Lawrence or whoever. But we've got so many good ball players. One of them isn't Anthony Hartigan, much to Clive's displeasure. But we've got so many players who should be able to hit a 50 pence piece.
Can I just say, Hartigan would not get in this side.
I'd still put him in ahead of Boateng. That's another argument for another day. Carry on, Nick.
He scored a good free kick though. So yeah, I obviously we do practice it, but we do mess around sometimes with it. So now we've got Flint in there and Cargill. He's got to aim for them, haven't you? That's the main thing. Cause chaos. Flint causes chaos, and that helps. Yeah. I think Akins does as well, because he doesn't know where he's going. No one else does. He just, mooses around the box and just bangs into players and into things. Flint, it was the same. And like you say, I think 4 men marked Flint for both corners, and they just stopped, and he just walked into the middle of the 6-yard box and punted it in the net. We could have had more.
That's the important thing, though, as well, Clive, that, Aidan Flint said in his post-match interview that he gets a lot of stick or he's had a lot of stick so far from the staff for not scoring from corners. I think a lot of his work early doors from set plays, though, has had to be that decoy, because defenders look at him from a set piece and think, oh my absolute God, I don't want to be marking that. I don't want to be picking up. We're going to have to double up on him to try and stop him. So naturally, we don't get any success from it, because he has to go a little bit deeper, and often his role has been heading the ball back across the box and back into play. Whereas, I think we've started to pick up on that a little bit more. And when you've got players in the side like Bailey Cargill, if Flint's being taken up by 3 defenders, that's going to open a gap. He gets his run right, gets on the end of it, and like somebody said, that header nearly ripped the back of the net out.
Yeah, I mean, Flint has obviously been getting some ribbing, I think, from his colleagues, because he has a reputation for scoring plenty of goals. But a couple of things. One is you can only head him in if you get delivered the ball that you need. And this is like the first time we've seen that happen. In fact, Clough's complaint a couple of games ago was that when he sent him up, nobody seemed to recognise he'd sent him up. So nobody was targeting him. But I think against Notts was a good example of where he just caused absolute chaos in their defence, because they were mindful of him to the point where they were obsessed by him. And as soon as the ball hadn't come to him, they were in the wrong positions. And then they tried to gather momentum again. And by which time he'd been left all on his little own. I think I could have scored that one. The reality is that you got 2 big men up there. Who are they going to mark? And they didn't mark the right one for the Cargill goal, mind you, when he headed that, it stayed headed, didn't it? My God, did he hit it properly? You know?
My one complaint on corners, though, is we don't send Bowery up, which is always I know he's fast, but he's also quite tall. You know, when he stands next to Flint and Cargill, Bowery is actually quite tall.
And he's scored quite a few goals with his head, hasn't he?
Yeah, we have like Reed in the box and Bowery back, and I know he's not as quick. I understand it's a pace thing, but a lot of teams don't leave players up anymore. And then you've just got Bowery on his own and Reed's in the box. I'm like, what's he going to do? Bowery up there. So that's my one complaint on corners, is get Bowery up there.
Get Barry back up front. No, not really. Get Barry anywhere. Cam, you're smiling away at that Barry comment. Either that, or you've got your. You're watching the Double D program again, aren't you?
I'm watching the England game as well. But no,
how rude!
I just love Nick's comment about what's Reed going to do. He scored the equaliser.
Not from a corner, he didn't.
Oh, well, yeah. No. On the corner, you look at the footage back, and it is first and foremost, it's fantastic work by Flint to take the attention away and Cargill to get up. But the way that Cargill's got up, he's let like an absolute salmon, but he's timed it perfectly to get the ball, but also perfectly to not allow the Notts County player to get a jump. Notts County defender that's on Cargill, or the player that inadvertently ends up marking Cargill at the end of his run, can't get up off the ground because Cargill has timed his jump absolutely perfectly, and he just cannot get off the ground, and he's just stood there like a statue and just watching this ball fly into the back of the net.
I mean, for all you know, might have wanted to stand by and watch our excellent football. It's one of those things, isn't it? Keep your comments coming in. Richard says, I said the same thing about corners. No point in getting excited. However, thinking back to last Saturday at Wimbledon, DKD hit a corner straight onto the head of Gale. The difference was Cargill didn't stand on ceremony and buried it, whereby Gale tried to place it. The delivery has been getting better. Yeah, there's that experience thing in there as well with that one, but completely agree. Chris says Flint had already started celebrating, thinking Akins had scored when the ball came loose for his goal. Chris says, I think that Cargill goal might be my favourite of the four. Reminded me of the Tafazoli one at Notts. He just seemed to want it far more than any other Notts player. And Bowery played a blinder as well, says Paul. Final thoughts on the Notts game before we take a very quick break and then turn our attention to other Mansfield matters. Nick, I'll come to you first. In terms of Derby days of recent years, obviously we've waited a few years to take on the Nottinghamshire Derby again, with what them being in the conference for a fair while. But we've had some belters over the years. We've obviously had the Kane Hemmings penalty in the last minute, the 5-0 home drubbing, the 2-2 draw, Swansea, the Iceland Christie goal from years and years and years ago. Where does this one rank in terms of Nottinghamshire derbies? Because for me, given the fact of our unbeaten record, the fact we've not played them for so long, them being 5 unbeaten at home and top of the league, I think this one has definitely got to be up there in the top 3, maybe even the top 1.
Yeah, this would be top. I think my second would be, I was lucky enough to be mascot when we beat them 3-2 at home when we got into League One, or Division 2 as it was back then, in 2002, when Craig Mitchell scored that screamer from outside the box. That was up there for me. But then we got relegated, so I sort of forgot about that. I think the best part of it all, is that it was on Sky. I work in an office where not that many people like football, but every single person in that office had seen part of it. And it's just better that they'd done it for all the world to see. And it wasn't just, we'll sweep under the carpet, it'll be on iFollow, no one's going to watch it. It was on Sky Sports and we battered them. And I don't think there's anything better than being able to have that on my TV box forever, recorded, the highlights on there all the time. They're always there. County fans won't be able to forget them. The algorithms of Sky will keep popping it back up. It's great. What more could you ask for?
You want to be careful over and over on repeat, as Cam will tell you. Eventually, you'll go blind. Clive, your final thoughts on the Nottinghamshire Derby win? Was it up there in terms? You've seen the most of all of us.
Yeah, I think it was probably the best win because there was the least expectation because of the position that Notts had created for themselves. So I think it's the best one. It's certainly the most enjoyable one, in my opinion. And just to finish my little bit on here is Bowery. What a player! I mean, absolute. He's made that right back position his own. Who would have thought that? In fact, it was many people's choice for man of the match on Saturday.
I'll tell you, you'd have thought that. Jordan Bowery would have thought that, because Jordan Bowery is in an absolute league of his own. Cam, your final thoughts on the Nottinghamshire Derby? Where does it rank in terms of Derby Day victories for you that you've seen?
I think it ranks second for me, just because Sir Mal Benning's goal against Chesterfield, obviously, up top Derby days.
We didn't realise we were including Chesterfield games.
No, he's got it around his melon.
Oh, we just do it. All right. First, then. I thought you meant Derby days. No, first. I just feel like it feels a lot more because it meant so much to Notts County. Previously, the last time we played them, 2019, obviously we lost. They bigged it up like it was going to save their season, and they still went down. So it's just their little way of being like, oh, we're finally playing Mansfield again. It's on the telly. We're top of the league. We've 100% home record, and then we've gone and absolutely trounced them. It's just brilliant. And same as Nick, I recorded the game and I've watched it back. I watched it back yesterday, Sunday, when I got back from Huddersfield, and it is superb watching it back for the 9th, 10th, 11th time. Brilliant. It'll never get old.
Well, at least that when Ellie catches you watching something, we know it's not something dodgy. It's the Notts County game. Right, we're going to be going right back after these. We'll be talking North Stand. We'll be talking cup draws, and we'll be casting our eye ahead to the next few games as well. Don't go anywhere. This is the show for the fans, by the fans, and I, for one, can't wait to talk to these three again after the break. Welcome back to the show for the fans. It's the Mansfield Matters Podcast. Hope you're doing well this evening. Thanks for joining us as always. Right, we're going to turn our attention to off the pitch matters now, Clive, and talk about something which has been long in the offing, trying to find a resolution for our ticketing problem. And one of the things that has constantly come up in conversation is, if only we could have some of the North Stand when teams like Forest Green bring 20 fans. Well, on Saturday, we're going to have part of the North Stand when Forest Green bring 20 fans. Finally.
Absolute common sense. And the initiative is well appreciated by me, one of the biggest critics of the lack of adaptation of our ground. I think the reality is they're having to work very hard to do it because there isn't a natural segregation in that stand. So, and it's as well they're going to trial it against a team that will only bring a very small number of fans. But those 577 extra seats available to Stags fans would be quite welcome, I think. Sadly, I don't think we will sell out all our allocation for the match against Forest Green, but there'll be fans in there, and it's got to be better for the team to have fans behind each goal. I'm guessing we can't do it for every game because there are teams like Wrexham that have already, well, they haven't already, but they will commit themselves to selling out whatever allocation we offer them. Now, if I understand the rules correctly, we are obliged to offer 10% of the stadium's capacity to visiting fans. Well, 10% of about 9,000 is 900. So you could actually, if the trial works out well and there's no problems with it, you could make that a permanent situation where you could divide that stand, put a bit of segregation down C block, and obviously have some permanent segregation on the concourse behind. And therefore, we would have the choice then whether to offer the whole stand or, more increasingly, just the stand that satisfies the league's minimum requirement.
Yeah, let's quickly read the full article from the club. This came out on Sunday after the Notts County win on Saturday. Mansfield Town Football Club is pleased to announce that blocks A and B of the North Stand at One Call Stadium will be available for home supporters for the Stags home match against Forest Green on Saturday, 21st of October, as part of a trial exercise. Following months of planning and dialogue with the appropriate authorities, 577 tickets will be made available to Stag supporters in the North Stand for the aforementioned fixture. The move comes following a remarkable rise in home attendances, which has led to an average crowd of 7,523 at One Call Stadium so far this season. In the latest development, the club is endeavouring to maximise the capacity of One Call Stadium for Stag supporters as part of its ambitions to continue to increase revenue and maximise the support for Nigel and the players. The club will use the aforementioned game as a trial run, and depending on its success, will look to make available the same blocks to home supporters for future games where the number of travelling supporters is anticipated to be low. The conduct and behaviour of supporters is therefore paramount to ensuring the success of this trial for the future prospective home games. Tickets are obviously now on sale via stagstickets.co.uk. I did have a little look earlier on as well, and so far we've sold just under 100 or so of those tickets in blocks A and B. So like Clive says, I don't think we'll sell that out, but very much a trial period, Nick. But also what comes with this is twofold, really. First and foremost, the emphasis that it is a trial, and therefore that there will be teething and logistical problems, but also the fact that it has been in the works for a long time. It's not just come as a reactive thing. The club have been looking at ways to maximise it, and now is the time to try and take advantage of it. It's got to be a softly approach, this, hasn't it, to see how it works. None of this moaning about having to travel from, the turnstiles in the Ian Greaves lower to the stand and have your tickets checked twice. None of the shared facilities things having to go across. It's a trial, and those things will come in time if this is a successful exercise.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me is that there's a concession by the police and authorities, which I think is massive for them to at least allow this trial is a big thing. We all know they've been a massive thorn in Mansfield's side in changing ends for fans, and we've obviously had issues around this segregation in the North Stand. So the fact that they've made some concession to the club, which they've obviously been working hard on, is massive, I think. Because if this goes successfully and you don't get idiots, fighting in the same stand on Saturday, then I only see it as going a one-way street to eventually, hopefully, getting some of that stand back. And I do think the club will be working on the Bishop Street. Obviously, they haven't confirmed anything, but if this has took, say, I think probably as soon as they knew the 5,000 odd season tickets were coming, I think they probably started to work on that at that point. I've no doubt they'll be working on the Bishop Street as well and looking at other options. But I think it's great. I sort of grew up as a Stags fan, first of all, in the West Stand, but then moved when I was sort of 8 or 9 into the North Stand, and loved it there until we were booted out. And I think a lot of Stags fans obviously won't get the chance because their season ticket will be somewhere else. But hopefully for the 100 or so that do end up in there, that they, enjoy it and represent the club in an adult manner. And we don't get any incidents, and the police go, you know what, we can trust Mansfield fans, which I don't think they've probably ever said before.
Yeah, that's the key thing. I think the other key thing, Cam, as well, is the fact that it is a trial, and like we said, there are going to be some logistical problems with that, having to go in through the Ian Greaves lower turnstiles, having to transfer back and forth across for those facilities. But like Clive said, if it's a successful trial, then in the future there is space, behind that goal. There's a little bit of concourse in where they can potentially put an extra turnstile in, put up a toilet, a small toilet block, and maybe a burger van or something. There is space there to do it, to try and turn it into a more manageable and flexible space. It's all about being patient here, isn't it? And encouraging people to buy, because if people don't buy, then this offer will be ripped off the table no sooner as it's been placed.
Yeah, it will. I think one thing that needs to be echoed across all supporters, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, Q Block, fuck off. Don't go in there. Because they are the people that will ruin this for everybody. It is a minority. It is a minority. It's only a few. But it's a very high probability that a percentage from that block would be the ones to ruin it.
I think you're slightly worrying about nothing there, Cam, because all of the people in Q Block are season ticket holders, and therefore they can't transfer.
I think I get the point though of like it not being aren't there to what the first thing. Away fans, I think.
You can move your season ticket, or you have to relinquish your season ticket to the ticket office for one game, and they can offer you another ticket elsewhere in the ground. Because I've had my little one before, and I couldn't sit in the West Upper with her, so I've sat in like the lower.
But that's in the control of the club, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But that's still then they won't necessarily know every single troublemaker at this club. There's no way the ticket office staff will know who they can and can't move. The police obviously will know, and it'll get to the game and it'll probably flare up because they won't let them into the seat or something. Damn. But it's still like Craig said, it's just the fact that if we are wanting this to be a permanent thing and for this to be available to everybody, then I just hope and pray that the minority that are there for ulterior motives are put off from going in there and ruin it for everybody else.
The way to deal with that is to make it available to family tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's probably a fair point. Additional family thing. The caveat is potentially it being closer to the away fans, and then, as much as Cam mentioned there about there being a small, and I highlight the word small, minority of people who aren't there necessarily to watch the football and to cause a little bit of trouble and things like that. That also can be said for the away fans as well. So there is that little bit of a worry as well. So we also, as much as we're relying on home fans to buy those tickets, we're also relying on people to, the visiting fans to also behave and comply with it, which is why the club have got to put in place things like using the West Lower turnstiles, having portable toilets, etc.
Yeah, this has got to be temporary because it's a trial. There's no point in club investing lots of money putting separate turnstiles and permanent snap cabins in there if it's not going to work. So I'm actually totally behind the club's idea. But, putting fans from both teams in one stand is not unheard of. We were down in Gillingham a couple of weeks ago, and the Stags fans are in one end of a stand that is predominantly their fans, and all there is a bit of netting and a slightly enhanced steward line.
Accrington was the same, wasn't it? Accrington.
Absolutely, and the measure is not what is on the seats; it's on what's on the concourse. If you can't get to where the other fans are on the concourse, the opportunity to cause trouble, the only thing that's left is separate access. Well, separate access could be made available to those two blocks of the North Stand if the trial is successful and is deemed to be a permanent situation.
Yes, well, right, let's continue where we're saying. I can't remember where I was at now. I've lost completely what I was talking about. There you go. Right, let's move on and keep talking about these attendances then. And I think, like someone said in the comments, Simon actually sent it in the comments. Demand is starting to outstrip supply. What a great position to be in. The club has got to be looking at growing the ground's capacity. And if you look at the increase in attendances, the average attendances over the last 4 or 5 years or so, it's just gone up and up and up and up. And if we continue in the vein of form that we are, Nick, as well, this won't just be a one-time thing if it's successful on Saturday.
Yeah, hopefully not. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to put together sort of Stag's historical kit records, which is the bane of my life at the minute, trying to put them in an Excel spreadsheet. I have to look at YouTube videos of old games to see what particular shirt we wore in a particular game. And some of the home games from not that long ago, really, sort of 14, 15. I look in the Quarry Lane Inn where I sit, and there's literally no one else on my row, apart from me, my dad, and my mate. And that's it. There's no one on the row. It's incredible how empty the ground was just, less than 10 years ago. Even for big games, there's just no one there. So that upward trajectory has been massive. Obviously, it helps that the team's playing well, but I don't see that waning at the minute. I think there's a real passion for sort of local football, and live football, I think, has become a big thing for people. I think people are getting a bit turned off by the whole VAR Premier League thing. And I'm not suggesting anyone sort of comes to Mansfield because of that, but it's another sort of thing where people value live football. I think that's really big at the minute. But I see us just expanding, and hopefully, if you could see us in 5-6 years' time, would we have the Bishop Street done? I don't know. Would we move? I don't know, but whatever. But I only see it as being an upward thing. I don't see attendances dropping off anytime soon. I think once you've committed to a season ticket, the chances of vast swathes of people stop having a season ticket is quite small.
I think it's perfectly true what Nick's just said. We're unlikely to dip below 6,000 for any game. We could play in the local plumbers and would get 6,000 because of the pre-sold seats.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you're having audio issues, well, I'm figuring out it's Cam. It's looping back through Cam. Every time I unmute Cam, everything's looping back through him. So it's him. This is what happens when you have several browsers open, including 18+ websites. Get off the delivery and diversion websites. Naughty. Right. Let's move on and talk cup draws. Clive, Wrexham at home again. Yay!
Yay! I've got mixed opinions about it. I mean, we should be able to beat them, just the same as we should be able to beat them in the league. We're at home. If we'd got Manchester United, we couldn't have got any more in the ground than we're going to get in the ground. So we've a chance to progress, and that's in a meaningful cup. And I think I'm not at all disappointed. I think if we'd been away to Wrexham, I would have been.
I'm going to unmute Cam now. I might regret doing this. But he was the one in the group chat on Sunday when the cup draw took place. That was throwing the dummy out of the pram and wasn't happy with the cup draw.
It's a crap draw. I'm hoping my audio's fine, by the way.
Your language is no good.
Thanks. Oh, no, I'm working there.
If you don't talk, it's all right. It's all right.
It's a crap draw. And I think the only positive that we're playing Wrexham is potentially that we could be on the TV in America and get a little bit of money. It's always boring when you play another League 2 side or a League 1 side that you've played loads, and it's just a bit naff.
I'm going to mute him again now. I don't see how it is a crap draw, to be honest, Nick, because it's not round 3. If that was a round 3 draw and you had all those big teams in there, I would completely agree and say it would be a crap draw. But actually, what you want in round 1 and 2, winnable games. And as we've proved over the last God knows how many weeks, is the fact that we can battle against the likes of Wrexham, and we can beat Wrexham. We've had a really good cup run in the Carabao. I think we're going to have a good cup run, fingers crossed, in the Poppy John's EFL Trophy, and I think we're going to have one in the FA Cup as well. We might get a little game on Disney Plus or whatever. It's a winnable game. It's at home. We sold out against them before. We'll probably do it again. Win.
There's 2 draws I wanted. One was Cray Valley Paper Mills, which I was extremely disappointed that the mighty Mansfield weren't going down to the, Cray Valley Paper Mills Stadium or whatever the hell their stands made out of paper. Or Worksop Town.
Origami Arena.
I wanted Worksop Town for the George Taft Derby, but it just wasn't to happen. I don't know if that's its official title, the George Taft Derby, but I would have liked that, any of those 2. But to be honest, at home, as soon as it said Mansfield Town at home, I thought we can win it. Doesn't matter who gets picked on the other side, does it? I was just hoping it wasn't like County or Chesterfield. Just can't be doing with that. That asshole's done now for another few months. So it is what it is.
Could have been Salford away.
It could have been. It could have been Exeter away. It could have been. There was a plethora of terrible teams in there. So we got out the draw early. We picked somebody we can probably beat. We can boo Ollie Palmer again. What more could you possibly want out of life than that?
See, Cam's coming round to the idea now. Fish. Can't hear you now. You're not even muted at my end either, which, do you know what? I find it good. I mean, I feel can't hear him at all, which is great. Chris in the comments says, "Cam the ginger pessimist, see, I wasn't mistaken." I can see his lips moving. I can't hear him. You know what? It'd be even better if I couldn't see his face. There we go. Even better. Can't see his face now. Right. Let's move on. Let's also talk quickly about under-23s at home at the RH tomorrow, Clive. 2 o'clock kickoff against Derby in the Central League. One or two players, I'm sure, on the fringe of the first team will get run-outs. Mr. Williams is on the picture, which means he'll probably play. George Cooper, Makeel Abdullah, probably James Gale. Good opportunity to see those coming through, and for other players that need it to get minutes, I guess.
Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to it. It's an afternoon's diversion, and we don't get a chance to see if you like, the second string as much as I'd like to. So yeah, be interested to see what happens.
Right, let's see what happens when I press a little button, and it's this one. So will they win, lose or draw? And what will be the score? It's the guessing game that brings you zero fame, but to be the best you must outguess the rest. So will they win, lose or draw? And what will be the score? In the League or Cup, you just make it up, because they're just works of fictions. It's podcast predictions. Will they win, lose or draw? So 2 games to look ahead to. Forest Green Rovers at home on Saturday and Harrogate away on Tuesday. I think, Clive, we're all sort of tongue-in-cheek saying, but sort of deep down knowing, that if this unbeaten run is going to come to an end in the next 2 games, it's probably going to be Tuesday night, because Harrogate are a bogey side. We need to pick the bogey, flick it away, and put that, to use a Halloween term, ghost to bed, don't we?
Yes, it's about time we turned Harrogate over. I have to say, we've absolutely no reason why we shouldn't. They're no team this year, and the momentum is with us. Doesn't mean a jot when you go to Harrogate, I'm sure, but I'm going there optimistic.
And Nick, Saturday, of course, back on home soil, hopefully with Alan Wilson able to call out numerous goals with a much better and much improved voice. They are 23rd in the league at the moment, obviously relegated last season, change of manager, and then another change of manager. They're not having the greatest season, and they seem to be heading in the direction they deserve to be heading, which is back towards the conference to allow a better standard of club to come up and take their place. 3 wins, 1 draw, 9 defeats so far this season. However, in their last game, 5-0 winners over Colchester United. So things could potentially be on the turn. If any team's going to come to the One Call Stadium and try and frustrate us, they're going to be another one of those teams, aren't they, that come and stick men behind the ball and try and make it a frustrating afternoon. Yeah,
they're going to lump it to Troy Deeney, aren't they? I assume he starts. I know he plays there. I don't even know if he actually plays. I assume he does. Yeah, they're going to sit behind the ball. We've maybe got to be a little bit smarter. Maybe not just try and keep the ball all the time and invite them onto us a little bit, so there's a little bit of room behind them, because if they just sit and defend all game, it will be painful. But if we make the most of set pieces, maybe we don't need to get in behind them. I don't know, but there's no reason to believe we shouldn't beat them. I did forget the last 2 predictions because I wasn't on here and nobody reminded me, so I did literally just forget. Listen, I need babying to the point where you need to stand by me and make sure I do it.
I think we do need to be cautious, because I think Flint will be slower by comparison than he has been, because he can't be easy running with Troy Deeney in your pocket.
Somebody said that Cargill had got 5 yellow cards. I haven't clarified that. Is that a 1-match ban?
Yeah.
Is that correct? So he won't be playing against his
former
club. It's a
question whether Williams or
it's got to be Brunt for me.
Brunt comes in. I would have thought Brunt.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
The natural replacement. I think he was unlucky to be dropped the last couple of games.
Bowery.
Take him, but
get Bowery there.
I agree.
That's what Clough will do.
I agree.
Get Bowery there.
Putting Bowery across there, he's been excellent. Doesn't deserve to be dropped, but brings Johnson back in to give us a little bit more attacking depth down that right hand side. There's absolutely nothing wrong in me.
No, you can't take Bowery out of right back. I wouldn't hear of it.
You can put Bowery wherever you like, and it will still give you 195,000 million%. Right. Well, let's see if we're going to get mime or audio in this bit. Let's see. Cam, who's what's the name of the guy that mistook you for me? Yeah, no, it's just mine. So this is how we're going to do it, right? So you've got to that's win, yeah. Yeah. That's 2. Yeah, and then I don't know how you're gonna like mime the 2-1. Yeah, I don't know how you're gonna mime the player who gets man of the match. So I think we might just have to give him minus points. But either way, I've got to do this because we've got to now find out people's podcast predictions. So let's start with Forest Green Rovers at home on Saturday afternoon. Clive, I'm going to come to you first.
2-0.
Is that a win?
2-win. Yeah, sorry, 2-0 win. Flint.
Cam, you're next. Now, I think 4-0. I think you went 4-0. Type your predictions and I'll read them out after. Nick, I'm going to come to you.
3-1. Aaron Lewis.
Is that a win, yeah?
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Aaron Lewis. I am going to go for a 4-0 win. And the man of the match is going to be Aaron Lewis. I'm going to go with Nick. For Harrogate, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Man of the match, Christy Pym. Clive, your Harrogate prediction, please.
1-0 win.
Yep.
Flint.
Nick.
I'm going to go for a 0-0 Flint.
A 0-0 Flint. I like it. I definitely haven't muted Cam.
You did.
I can hear myself.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Quick, give me a prediction.
Right, 5-0 Harrogate win, McDonald, and 3-1 against Harrogate win.
Hang on a minute. You've just gone 5-0 Harrogate.
No, yeah, 5-0 Forest Green win.
Yeah.
McDonald and Harrogate 3-1 win, and Akins.
Great. Pop him back on mute, then we don't have to talk to him. If you want to get involved with podcast predictions, please do so via the link in the description. You must do it no later than 1 hour and 1 minute before kick-off on Saturday afternoon or on Tuesday night. I would give you the latest leaders in the podcast predictions league, but I can't be bothered, and we've done 63 minutes of this show, which means it's time to say goodbye. Cam has written swear words in the chat box. So there's only one thing to do: remove guests. See you later. He'll be back in 4 weeks when he jumps on the bandwagon again. Nathan will be back. When we lose a game. So we'll see him next week when we inevitably lose to Harrogate. Wave goodbye, Cam. Thanks so much for watching and listening, everybody. We will see you again next time on the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. So there you go, another podcast ticked in. All for one and one for all. Mansfield Town still unbeaten going into games against Forest Green Rovers and Harrogate Town. Will it be the same this time next week? God, let's hope so. Let's hope that our momentum continues to build and we continue to get a foothold in that top 3. Play along with podcast predictions now via the link in the description. All that's left to say is my thanks to all of the Mansfield Matters podcast panel tonight. Yes, including the guy that is definitely not me. He's definitely not me. How can you even say that he looks... It's an absolute that people think that he's me. And to be honest, if you thought that he was me, you all. We'll see you next time on the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast. I do not look like Cam Belton. Absolute night, everyone.